We'll call the Osceola Township Water Board meeting to order. Ms. Gardner, may I impose upon you to act as secretary?
You bet.
Thank you very much. Could you kindly call the roll for us?
Sure. Mr. Jenke.
Here.
Mr. Wareham.
Here.
Mr. Huckala.
Here.
Myself, I'm here, and to note, Ms. Hool is absent tonight.
Thank you very much. We have 4 members present. That is a quorum of the board. We'll proceed with our meeting. First item on our agenda is approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented? Moved. Mr. Wareham moves. Is there support for that?
I'll support. It's Krista.
Krista will support the motion to approve the agenda as presented. Are there any additions to the agenda? Any proposed deletions to the agenda? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to approve the agenda as presented, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We have an agenda. Next item is approval of the minutes from the February 10th, 2021 Township Water Board meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the February 10th, 2021 Osceola Township Water Board meeting as presented?
I'll make that motion. It's Krista.
Ms. Gardner, is there support?
I'll support it, Don.
Mr. Wareham supports. Are there any corrections, proposed deletions, or alterations proposed to the minutes as presented? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to approve the minutes as presented, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We have approved minutes. The next item on our agenda are the financial reports. You will have in your packet a profit and loss, budget versus actual, April through February 2021, April of 2020, February of 2021. As of February 28th, you have a 2021, you have a balance sheet. For February 2021, you have a check detail. For February 2021, you have a deposit detail. We also have included a monthly pumpage report, but we'll address that when Mr. Matt Folk speaks. Are there any comments on the reports before you? Hearing none, do I have a motion to accept the financial reports?
Move.
Is that Mr. Jenke? Thank you, Mr. Jenke. Is there support?
I'll support it, Don.
Mr. Wareham supports. We have a motion and support to accept the financial reports. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to accept the financial reports, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Bills for payment. I do not see the packet that normally contains the bills for payment. Ms. Gardner, do you have any information relative to the payment of bills that you'd like to share?
Everything was standard.
So routine monthly bills through the end of February.
Yes.
Under normal circumstances, we would call for a motion to recommend the bills for payment up to the board. Are people comfortable with that approach? Sure, I am. Do I have a motion to recommend to the full board acceptance of or recommend acceptance of the bills paid?
I will make that motion, Don.
Mr. Wareham moves that we recommend to the full board that the bills be accepted as paid. Is there support?
I'll support it, Krista.
Gardner supports. Are there questions, comments, or concerns about the recommendation of payment of the bills? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next item on our agenda is public comment. We will allow up to 3 minutes per person for public comment. Is there anyone participating with the meeting that cares to offer comment or would like to offer comment more appropriately to the Osceola Township Water Board at this time? Hearing none, Ms. Gardner, if you would kindly note 6:06 as the time when public comment was offered. We will provide an opportunity before we adjourn for public comment as the meeting comes to a conclusion as well.
Yep.
Reports. Water operators report. Mr. Matt Folk, the floor is yours.
Back keys for Dollar Bay and Tamarack are negative. Reads went okay. Second back key sample Dollar Bay was negative. Miss Dig.
Mark, it's hard to hear.
Yes, we just moved the phone closer to Mr. Matt Folk.
Okay, thanks.
Welcome. Please continue, Bob.
There was mistakes for power pole replacement. And I changed out 3 meters in the last month. March back keys are already back. Those are negative. Working on a cross connection report that's due in a month. I estimate the sampling schedule for 2020 up quite a bit, $4,500. Still working on reporting schedule forms for 2021. PFAS sampling is one that's gonna really hammer us. I have to do quarterly sampling, and that's gonna cost us $3,080.
That's part of the 4,500, right?
Yep.
That's an annual figure then, is it not? The 3,000? That's what it'll cost us annually?
Well, yeah, for right now, unless they change something.
Raise the rate again.
Well, we should have had a rate increase already. Try to build up some funds for the work we have to do, but.
I assure you that will be part of the discussion next week and the following week. Budgets for the fiscal year. Appreciate your comment on that. All right, Bob. Bob, do you have anything else you'd like to share?
No.
Are there questions of Mr. Matt Folk from any member of the board? Anyone? Thank you, Bob. The Water Secretary's report is not available for this evening. I talked earlier with Christina, and she assured me that it will be in an information packet next week when we begin deliberations on the budget as an information item, and I'm hoping that that's acceptable to the board. We can review it at that time. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, next item is unfinished business. The FY 2021 amended budgets, recommendations to the board. The water budget for Osceola's water system inside our water infrastructure is just about done, but I am recommending that we review all of our budgets at the same time relative to amending. We, of course, can approve an amendment anytime during the course of the fiscal year, and we will be discussing the amendments and the 21-22 budget meeting schedule momentarily on this agenda and in more detail at the regular board meeting to follow. So I do not have a document in the packet for you tonight. I have had a chance to go through all of the updates that Krista and Tracy have provided, and we are coming in with expenses under resources collected, but the margin is, as our auditor suggested, for the previous fiscal year, rather close, and Bob alluded to that just a moment ago in his comment about a possible need for some rate hikes, given the cost that we could be incurring coming fiscal year. So sort of heads up to that as we prepare for our budget meetings, both current year and next, starting next week. Is that acceptable? Format laid out?
Yes.
Thank you. Under new business, it has 21-22 budget meeting schedule. It will, of course, include the final amendment for the current fiscal year as part of that process as well. In your board packet, there is a identification of dates. These are dates that we have used historically, the Tuesdays and Thursdays in the latter part of March. It's post-board of review schedule. I'll quickly run through it to identify the dates for those that may not have it in front of them that are participating. We could begin as early as Tuesday the 16th, or we could delay the initial meeting until March 18th. We have Monday the 22nd identified as a work session as well. The earliest date identified for the public hearing would be Wednesday the 24th. If we have not completed our work by that date, we would have a work session and hold our public hearing and final vote for approval on Monday the 29th. Trust everyone will take a quick peek at those. I will be recommending, and I'll do it at this time, that we have at least 2 full work sessions of indeterminate length at this moment before the public hearing, and use that date as well as a final meeting to put the finishing touches on the budget for next year, hold the public hearing. The draft documents would be available prior to that meeting, and we're picking a date that's 24th or 29th so we can get the appropriate ads in the paper relative to the budget work schedule and hearing for the community input should individuals desire. So certainly entertain a discussion on it right now if people are interested, or shall we defer it to the regular board meeting? Is that acceptable?
Probably the regular board meeting since it's in that packet.
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate the latitude, but we are getting into a rather compressed schedule. And as I said, we will need a minimum, in my opinion, of 3 dates to complete our work and ultimately hold our hearing and approve the budget. That concludes the new business portion of the agenda. I did indicate that there would be another opportunity for public comment. Is anyone interested in offering comments for the Water Board's consideration at this time?
Yes, this is Cindy Barth.
Yes, Cindy?
I was wondering where the water board guy was and why couldn't we see him on screen?
The,
Can't see anybody else.
yeah, there, right now, we're participating over the phone, limited skill set relative to Zoom capabilities from the supervisor at this moment. So it is more a conference call than a regular Zoom meeting. We are going to do our very best to address that situation prior to our April meeting.
So he's at your house or at the township board office?
The three of us participating at the office are Mr. Wareham, myself, and Mr. Matt Folk.
Ah, okay. Alrighty. I must have missed the very beginning where everybody explained where they were, because I only see a phone number with no names. Okay, thank you. That answers my.
You're welcome. I appreciate the comment, Cindy. Thank you. Anything else from anyone relative to public comment?
Mark, I have something. This is Kristen.
Yes, Kristen.
I first have a clarification on the water assessment study where the township has requested a grant in order to have the water system documented. Is that item an item that will be discussed and tracked as a part of the water board or as a part of the main meeting? Just so I know kind of where to expect it if it's going to be discussed.
It will be discussed. It is on the agenda under UP Engineering updates, status of drinking water grant application.
Okay, good. Thank you. So then I'll just note it to look for it in the main meeting. And you will, Mark, I want to have a public comment that I'd like to include in this meeting, which is that this meeting, as you and I have discussed, Mark, did not meet the notification requirements. And so I just bring this up because there's been several items over the past few months where I am seeking to get information or meeting materials or the notification, searching for it, and it's not there. And I hope that the township, this is the second meeting this week where it wasn't posted timely. The other one was the Board of Review. So I do hope that the township will, I realize that there are several meetings happening this week. So, that is certainly something that could be causing the delay, but you'll also be having more meetings with the with the budget meeting coming up. So my hope is that the township will post the meetings in a timely manner so that people that are interested can follow it and share the information with other interested parties.
Thank you. I appreciate your comment, and we are taking steps necessary to ensure that the situation is corrected and believe that we have accomplished that. It should be as required, and we'll be back on schedule relative to notices immediately with forthcoming meetings to include the budget work sessions, hearing et al. Coming up the latter part of March.
Great, and Friday's meeting, because that's the next one. That's day after tomorrow to get that one posted.
Indeed, we have already taken steps to do that. My understanding is that we'll be up within the deadlines.
Great, thank you, and thanks for your talking with me today. Thanks.
You're welcome. Any additional comments? Thank you very much, everyone, for your participation and for your input. With nothing else to come before the water board, a motion to adjourn is in order.
I'll make that motion, Don.
Mr. Wareham moves that we adjourn. Is there support?
Yes, I'll support it, Krista.
I'm sorry, we didn't hear that.
Oh, I'll support it, Krista.
Okay, thank you, Krista. Ms. Gardner supports. All in favor of the motion to adjourn, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We stand adjourned. We will leave everything live. We will take a 3-minute break before we convene the township meeting? We will call the Osceola Township Board to order. Ms. Gardner, may I impose upon you to act as secretary for this meeting as well?
Yep,
Thank you very much. Would you kindly take the roll?
I will. Mr. Jenke,
Here. Yep.
Mr. Wareham,
Here.
Mr. Hopla.
Here.
I myself am here, and it's noted that Ms. Hool is absent from this meeting.
Thank you very much. We have 4 members present and participating. We have a quorum. The next item on the proposed agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Those of us in the office, kindly join me, stand and face the flag. Those participating over the phone, please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, the republic for which it stands,
One nation, under God,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Our first item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
I'll make the motion, Don.
Mr. Wareham moves. Is there support for the motion?
I'll support. It's Krista.
Ms. Gardner, we have a motion and support for the agenda as presented. Are there any suggested additions to the agenda, possible deletions, clarifications required?
Can we add under new business D, township property?
Township property,
Yeah,
acceptable to you, Mr. Wareham?
Yes.
We now have a motion to amend the agenda to add township property D under new business. Are there any other proposed additions? Any proposed deletions? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to approve the agenda as amended, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We have an agenda. Next item on our agenda is approval of the minutes from our February 10th, 2021 meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
I'll make that motion. It's Krista.
Ms. Gardner moves that we approve the minutes as presented. Is there support?
I'll support it, Don.
Mr. Wareham supports. We have a motion and support for the minutes from our February 10th, 2021 meeting. Are there any corrections, additions, deletions proposed for the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to approve the minutes as presented, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next item on our agenda are the financial reports. You should find in your packet reports for the township, road fund, Mason wastewater fund, Tamarack City Water, and Osceola Township Water. Osceola Township Water comes as a recommendation up from the Water Board. Just everyone has had a little bit of time to review these reports. Anyone have any questions, comments, concerns about the reports as presented? Hearing none, do I have a motion to accept the reports as presented?
I'll make that motion. It's Krista.
Ms. Gardner moves. Is there support for the motion to accept the financial reports?
I'll
I
second.
support
Don.
it. I can support.
Mr. Jenke, we have a motion from Ms. Gardner and a support from Mr. Jenke to accept the financial reports. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 7, approval of payment of bills. General Fund, Road Fund, Mason Fund, Tamarack City Water, and Osceola Township Water. Do I have a motion to approve, to accept payment of the bills? The General Fund, Road Fund, Mason Fund, Tamarack City Water, and Osceola Township Water.
I'll make the motion, Don.
I'll support. Aaron,
Mr. Turner moved, Mr. Jenke supported that we accept the payment of the bills as presented. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 8, public comment. We will now provide up to 3 minutes for any individual participating with our meeting to offer public comment for the board's consideration. We would ask that you identify yourself prior to offering the comment. Once you begin speaking, the clock will start running.
Mark, this is Kristen.
Kristen,
Hi,
Ms. Lordy,
yes.
the floor is yours for 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. I have a comment that I think I would like to make at the end, but there's a short item I'd like to mention at the beginning of the meeting, which has to do with the new business for the Board of Review, vacancy, resignation, and vacancy. I just wanted to notice that the Board of Review members all appear to be male for the Assessment Board of Review. So I just like to notice that as we are in an era of inclusivity and diversity, and who knows, you know, these things happen. I don't know who has applied to be on it, but it would certainly be welcome to see diverse representation, given that we don't have an incredibly diverse community to my knowledge. But if we could add women on it, that might, I just wanted to mention that I thought of that today when I was thinking about the Board of Review. Thank you.
You're
I'm
welcome.
not sure I appreciate that comment, Kristen. I don't think I appreciate that at all. This board in no way ever does anything like that. And that's uncalled for in every way. We don't treat anybody any different, regardless of gender. And that's not appropriate.
I have a follow-up that I'd like to say.
Still have time.
Okay. There's no accusation being made in my comment.
Well, I'm going to tell you that the best person for the job will get the job, regardless of the gender. And I don't appreciate that kind of comment at all. We're not here for that.
I'd like to say that my comment was interrupted. I didn't, and that it's not right, Aaron, for you to not allow me to make a comment. So you can not appreciate, you can disagree, but you did not allow me the floor to make a comment.
I have not removed you from the floor, Kristen.
I didn't say you removed me. You're interrupting me from making my comment.
Yes, I am.
And I would like to complete that comment by saying there is no accusation included. There is simply a noticing and a comment that there's no accusation in it. There's only the noticing that it is a male board, and that if there is an opening, that, you know, can we include everybody? I'm not suggesting that the board is practicing any behavior that is unbecoming at all.
The comment itself has inference towards it, it does. So yes, it does. You are trying to advocate for a female on the board, regardless of whether or not she is the best qualified or not. That is not appropriate.
Well, you can share that that's not appropriate, Aaron. That is my observation and comment.
I
and
just
I
did.
am free to make it.
That's fine. I'm just telling you where I stand on that one. And I'm gonna put it right out there and make sure it's in the minutes.
Comments are duly noted and response duly noted. Kristen, may I respond to you relative to recent applicants?
Yes.
Just for the record, recent applicants have been mailed. The postings will attract responses from across the township. That's our hope. There is no intent to not respond to people's petition to be on the Board of Review. We can encourage people to participate, but they will make their choices to participate. And we are selecting from the candidates that have responded to our notices for vacancies on the board. But your remarks are in the record, and Mr. Janke's comments are in the record as well.
And thank you for clarifying that, Mark. We did in our chat today ask the question of whether or not residency is required in order to be on the Board of Review. And I think you are going to check into that.
I'll have a very definitive answer for you in the very near future, probably by week's end or Monday at the latest.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any additional comments under public comment from people participating with our meeting? We will provide an opportunity prior to adjournment for public comment at the end of our meeting.
This is Cindy, Cindy Barth. I
Yes,
would like to know what is being done about looking into Osceola having its own Zoom program and not using UPEA Houghton's CAM.
Thank you very much for the comment. Does anyone else wish to offer comment under public comment at this time?
Yes, I still thought I was waiting for a comment or an answer. But if I'm not getting an answer, then I wanted to also say that I appreciate hearing people's name after they speak so I can tell who's speaking, because otherwise I'm looking at a dog and two telephones. And one telephone, I think, is 482-8596. And I think that's Mark and Dawn's, but I'm not sure who the telephone is, 482-3200, because when Aaron was interrupting Kristen, it went back and forth between Aaron and the other two phones that I just mentioned.
We will do our best to continue to identify speakers if the identity is not known to the listener. If you are having difficulty, this is Mark, identifying who is speaking, we'll gladly clarify for you. During public comment, we listen for input. It doesn't mean that the comments will necessarily receive a response at that time, but because you raised the subject again, Cindy, let me just add a final comment under this section in that the board will be looking at all options going forward as it prepares its budgets for the coming year. And it has been suggested on a number of occasions that we look into obtaining Zoom capability for our own use at the township office. Because it has been raised a number of times, it is on the list of items for consideration.
Thank you very much. I'd also like to say that as making public comments myself, I appreciate that I'm not interrupted during my comment in now and in the future, because it's quite disconcerting to be interrupted during when you're making a public comment. So thank you for not interrupting me making a public comment. I also wanted to say I appreciate seeing Krista, because I can tell when she's speaking, and I can also, besides seeing her, hear her say her name at the end. So thank you very much. I'm finished.
Thank you. As stated a moment ago, we will provide an opportunity at the end of the meeting for public comment as well. Please note the time, Ms. Gardner, it is 6:38 when public comment concluded.
Got it.
Next item on our agenda are the reports. There's a handout in the packet relative to the assessor. The assessor has provided multiple pieces of information relative to the Board of Review. The Board of Review process began on the 2nd of March with an organizational meeting. There was the first of hearings held on Monday, the 8th, running from 2 to 5 and from 6 to 9 in the evening. There is no specific report in the packet from the assessor. I apologize if I did not make myself clear earlier. She has been focused on our Board of Review meetings. There is a Board of Review hearing, the one on the 8th, recessed at 9 p.m. will reconvene at 9 a.m. on Friday morning. Our assessor will be participating in most, but not all of that meeting because of an early morning conflict in her schedule. She will not be available to us at 9 a.m. when we convene, but will join us once the meeting commences when she's available and be with us for the balance of the day. We will be setting a date, if need be, on the 12th for a follow-up meeting relative to the Board of Review. In your packet, you will see a handout relative to maintenance that includes Mr. Odger's activities. I believe his letter of resignation is in there as well. And the posting of the position that will go up before the weekend across the township and on the website. Dollar Bay Fire Department, there is a brief report that I will read into the record from Mr. Banfield. Bill Fire Activities 2 report for the month of February. We had a work bee to shovel the roofs. They had large amounts of snow on them. And that is the extent of the report from the Dollar Bay Fire Department. Dollar Bay First Responders, I do not believe there is a report in the packet from the first responders. The next report would be the Tamarack City Fire Department. They had, by all appearances, a quiet month as well. Following that report, you will find the Tamarack City utility called the Water Board. Agenda, minutes from the previous meeting in your packet. That is followed by the Torch Lake Area Sewage Authority report from their February 22nd, 2021 meeting, agenda, minutes, and related items. They also provided us with their meeting schedule. I did not include that in your packet, but instead gave it to our secretary to post and to have available for people who are inquiring as to when that meets. If anyone on the board or anyone else for that matter is interested in the meeting schedule for the Torch Lake Sewage Authority, I can certainly provide it to you very near future. Supervisor's report, highlight things that are not on the agenda. The ice rink did receive quite a bit of use, but in talking with our ice rink manager, weather conditions over the last several days have made it impossible to keep the rink up. And with today's rain, it has now closed and will probably stay closed for the rest of the season. We will be soliciting information / bids as part of our budget process relative to the ice rink. I'll be contacting our insurance company again before the weekend relative to ultimately getting estimates down to them. I continue to play phone tag with Mr. Wilcox at Tokyo Marine. In your packet, you will find a letter from Calumet Township relative to the discussions underway / offer for obtaining Michigan American water. At this moment, it's an informational item. I'm confident they will be contacting us. As the board knows, the water supply for Tamarack City is part of the Michigan American water system. We'll be watching what transpires there very closely. It has also been suggested that a meeting take place with a representative of Travis Engineering between our township and other townships affected by this. And I did talk with Mr. Sapina in the not too distant past about facilitating such a meeting. I was given a heads up by our water supervisor about all of this, Matt folks, some time ago. We have, and I did include it in your packet, the Chamber's Spark Plug Award. I found that rather interesting, and if I'm interpreting the cover letter correctly, I think membership in the organization resulted in a recognition by the organization of its members and the award coming out to us. Believe it went to everyone or most everyone that is a member of the chamber, but nice to receive something from them that recognizes what we are attempting to do here in Osceola Township. I had a conversation several days ago with Tony Giulio, and he indicated he would start ditching here in Dollar Bay to open up the ditches for drainage of rain, melt, and runoff. And I know the process is underway. I saw him working a short time ago up by the ball field. Relative to blight, some progress has been made. The exact date escapes me, but I've had 2 conversations with residents here in the township relative to blighted buildings in Dollar Bay that have been a concern to many of us for some period of time, including one, I believe, on Elm Street. I think I have the street correct, where the porch is falling off. The first meeting was to introduce myself and talk about what could be done. In the second meeting, a very specific action plan from the gentleman was requested as to how he intends to deal with these issues and to identify in that plan what he thinks the township might be able to do to assist him. Both meetings were cordial, polite, but focused on the blighted property owned by the gentleman. And I anticipate the report here before the end of the month, or more appropriately, the action plan requested of him earlier this month, if I recall correctly. He said he would have it to us by the 31st, and I will hold him to that. I did indicate that there are consequences for allowing things to continue as they are, and he certainly left me with the impression he understood that. We'll see what transpires. I'm hopeful of seeing something definitive in a couple of weeks at the latest. So those are items that are not necessarily on the agenda, but things that I've been working on with other members of the township staff here in the office. So, does anyone have any questions of me?
Does that allow me to speak or not?
There will be public comment again, sir, at the end of the meeting.
Okay.
Which will probably be 7:30-ish, like that, perhaps sooner.
Okay.
But again, we have moved past the initial public comment period already.
Be late in the dollar short, I apologize.
No, you're quite all right, sir. There'll be an opportunity at the end of the meeting. If there's no questions of me, unfinished business, UP Engineering, Jim, are you with us?
I'm here.
The floor is yours, sir.
Okay, I just have the one item that I sent over, the 8th draw request to rural development for the Mason Sewer Project, in the amount of $5,920.01. In that there's reimbursement to the township for O&M costs for power bills to the lift station and for wages for Jim Sierra, totaling $297.21, and a UP outstanding invoice of $5,622.80. You might look at that and say, well, where's that coming from? If you recall, last month, you approved our amendment to our engineering that it included a lot of work we've done over the last several months dealing with MDOT right away. So that's basically money I've been holding, not invoicing until that amendment was available. So that's just an explanation there if anyone was curious. So the total request is $5,920.01. And upon approval, that would be sent over to rural development for payment.
What is the board's relative to the request identified by Mr. Koskanimi and approval of the resolution presented?
You're paying Jim wages, and I got 2 separate days that I helped him, 2 hours each, 4 hours for myself.
Duly noted, Bob. We'll make sure that that's noted. Did everybody hear Mr. Matfolk?
No,
No,
Part of what he has been doing is assisting with Mr. Sierra, who is employed in our Mason Sewer Project. And Bob was noting time that he had, and if he has not already, he will identify those days and hours and turn them in as request for payment. Am I correct in that, Bob? We'll endeavor to speak up a little bit louder, those of us that are away from the phone. Is, going back to my request, is there a motion to approve the resolution as presented?
Yes,
I will make that motion, Don.
Mr. Wareham moves that we support the resolution, or approve the resolution as presented. Is there support for the motion?
I'll support. It's Krista.
Ms. Gardner supports Mr. Wareham's motion. Any further discussion on the motion to approve the resolution? Hearing none, Ms. Gardner, may we take a roll call vote on the approval of the motion to approve the resolution?
Yes. Mr. Jenke,
Abstain.
Mr. Wareham,
Yes,
Mr. Hulkala,
Yes?
myself, I'll vote yes, and Ms. Hool is absent.
Motion carries. Mr. Koskanimi, are there other items that require board action?
No, there are not.
May we prevail upon you to bring us up to date on the drinking water grant application?
Yeah, I sat through a webinar today and they talked about that. You're referring to the DWAM grant, the Drinking Water Asset Management, dealing with lead copper services as well. They're supposed to come out with scoring of all of the submittals probably by the end of this month, and they're supposed to then start notifying communities, I think after April 15th, if they've been awarded the money. It's probably, chances are probably slim. There was like 301 applications. There's like $130 million in requests, and there's $36 million available. So they ended up getting way more than they had funds for. But it'll be interesting to see how they score them and where you fall in there. One thing is that in the future, there's always an option that they could find more money and fund the rest of them. They did that with the SAW, another program for wastewater in the past 5 years. So there is that is out there, but nothing set in stone. So we'll find out where you are on the priority list. They'll prioritize them and be able to tell kind of by cutoff where the money cuts off at, if you're above the line or below the line.
Any questions of Mr. Koskanimi relative to the grant application? May I ask a question?
Go
Did
ahead.
you restate the available money for this cycle?
I didn't understand the question.
How much money is in play for this round relative to the grant applications?
There is a total of 36.5 million, but for small communities, small rural communities, they had a set aside of 15 million. But I don't know what the breakout is between the small communities and the large communities as far as the total applicants. The 100 and some million that was submitted. I don't know what that breakout is.
Thank you. That clarifies
Okay.
for me. Thank you.
Yep.
Jim, or is Andy going to handle or is Mr. Sierra on the line, the recommendation on the lawnmower?
Yeah, Jim Sura is on the line.
This Jim?
Yes, it is.
Okay, Mr. Sierra is on the line relative to the Mason Sewer lawnmower. We had tabled action on this to tonight's meeting, if I recall correctly, or deferred. Trying to recall what term we used. Mr. Sierra has done some work, and there is a recommendation in your packet as to how to proceed. Mr. Sierra, would you like to spend a moment and talk about what you went through to come up with your recommendation?
Okay, I'd gone up to Abe's there and talked to the guy up there, and then I was at Ward's. Then I went online, and then I called downstate to talk to one of the guys that does landscaping down there, and he's using John Deere, and he's in Livonia, Michigan. And I was telling him we were looking at the 700 series, and he said he's very satisfied. He says for the area where it'd be doing, they'd be fine. Then he's got the bigger John Deeres. Then I went on the internet, on the websites where you can see the complaints, pluses and minuses. And then, I mean, the John Deeres, there was a couple of complaints, but most of them were positive, where the Husqvarnas, which I've heard is some of them, there's pluses and minuses. There's been some issues with them lately with the transmissions or the drives on them. And then looking at the warranty, the John Deere's got the good warranty, and then the access through the deck to work on a pulley system, and then the heavier gauge metal on the mower deck itself, I think will give us a longer life. And I think that just about covers it.
Jim, this is Don.
Yeah.
This is something that sounds like you can do just the general maintenance on?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just worried about the warranty because I'm not hearing good things about the dealer down there, but maybe you can put my mind at ease on that. Because I know it's a good warranty, but if you can't get it fixed, I'm just wondering if you heard anything positive about them.
Well, we got another John Deere tractor at Holtonhausen there, and the last one we had some issues there, and they picked it up and brought it back within 2 days and got the issue with our snow blower.
Okay, I just, you know how you hear a bunch of one thing, bunch of the other, so, I mean, if you got first-hand knowledge, that's fine. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Make a motion?
Are there any other questions of Mr. Sierra?
No, Mark, I know Andy was gonna check into that pricing again, because it was quite a while ago we got a quote there. I don't know, is Andy online?
I believe so. Mr. Kiernan, do you have an update on the quote relative to the John Deere mower?
Yeah, no, Northland Equipment was going to honor that original quote price.
You know what that is, Andy? I don't have it in front of me, I just.
Well, yeah, including a trailer, including tax, it's right around 9,500. And there's $10,000 in the project to purchase the mower.
So it's coming in under available funds.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. That was Mark.
Does anyone know if we would qualify for tax exempt through them?
The this RD project, items purchased under the RD program are not tax exempt.
Okay.
Mr. Kiernan, this is Mark again. If it comes in under available funds, it's my understanding that it will be paid for in its entirety out of the grant money?
Correct, yes. You go and make the purchase and present the invoice in the next billing, and RD would reimburse that.
Thank you. What is the board's pleasure relative to the recommendation from Mr. Sierra for the 700 series John Deere?
I'll make a motion that we go with Jim's recommendation and get the John Deere.
We have a motion from Mr. Wareham to go with the recommendation from Mr. Sierra to purchase the John Deere. Is there support for the motion?
I'll support. It's
We have a
Krista.
motion and support to accept Mr. Sierra's recommendation and purchase the John Deere mower for the Mason Sewer project. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, may I offer a friendly amendment that if necessary, the motion is also a motion to remove the item from the table had it been tabled previously, and then to go forward with a vote on it.
It's fine by me.
Is that acceptable to you, Ms. Gardner?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Are there any questions, comments, or additional input relative to the motion? Hearing none, Ms. Gardner will have a roll call vote on the purchase of the John Deere mower for the Mason Sewer project.
Yes. Mr. Jinky,
Abstain.
Mr. Wareham,
Yes.
Mr. Halkala,
Yes,
myself, I'll vote yes, and Ms. Hool is absent.
who is absent? So it passes 3-0 with one abstention and one absent. Motion carried. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Sierra.
Yeah, so I will need the invoice, the corrected invoice, the final invoice quote, and I will have that on your next month's rural development draw request. So basically, then once you get the money, you can go out and purchase the piece of equipment.
Thank you. Mr. Koskanimi, what do you need from us relative to the resolution? Just the document signed by the clerk and myself?
That's correct.
It may take a day or two. Our clerk is absent this evening and probably will not be back in the office until early next week.
And yeah, that's fine.
Fine? Thank you very much. Take the latitude.
Yep.
Anything else from UP Engineering?
Not on my end.
No, nothing here.
Thank you. We'll move on in our agenda. The next item on our agenda is a Travis Engineering update. If applicable, I did receive information from John Paul Pedala and asked me to read it into the record. It goes as follows. Still working on the bid package and Eagle permits for the FEMA project at Sandy Bottoms, Airport Road, Reservoir Road, and Gooseneck Creek. Reimbursement to FEMA for the 6th Street Storm Sewer Project has been submitted. I've not heard anything back yet. Reimbursement could be 90 days or more. So the request has gone in for reimbursement for the project on 6th Street, which was the storm drain, to refresh everyone's memory, done by, I believe, Seiler Construction last summer. So there's a printed copy available here. If anybody would like that for their file, please let me know and we'll get it out to you right away. Otherwise, you can pick it up if desired when the board convenes next week for its budget meetings. The next item on unfinished business is the FY 21-22 budget process schedule. We did touch on this during our water board meeting. The proposed dates again for everyone are starting on Tuesday, the 16th of March, or on Thursday, the 18th of March, followed by a meeting on Monday, the 22nd of March, and a hearing on the 24th of March, followed by the board meeting to approve the budget if applicable or necessary. We have set aside March 29th as the backup public hearing date if needed. What is the board's pleasure relative to the meeting schedule? It is my opinion we should schedule at least 2 work sessions prior to the public hearing date.
Is everybody available on all those dates, Mark?
It appears that everybody, as of the last polling, is available on all those dates. What they lack is the time, and we would look at the work sessions to be late afternoon, 4:30, 5 o'clock, probably 5 o'clock till a minimum of, say, 7 for the 2 work sessions. The hearing on Wednesday is pretty much at the most convenient time for the board, but my thought was that if we begin on the 16th and we then schedule the 22nd, if we feel we need more time, we could add the 18th at that time. So all dates were available to everyone during the polling. The times were a little bit iffy, but starting at 5:15, I believe everyone could attend the meetings. What is the board's pleasure relative to the meeting schedule?
I think you're right. We start with the earliest date because later dates open. My opinion.
Do we want to approve the entire schedule and just identify the proposed hearing date so we can get our ad in the paper? So if we schedule the 16th, 18th, and 22nd, we can always conclude that we don't need the 22nd if we meet on the 16th and 18th, and then hold our hearing on the 24th. Would that be acceptable?
I think so. This is Don.
Yes. Krista, I agree.
Mr. Janke?
That works fine for me.
Okay, we will begin then. Is there a motion to accept the schedule as developed and set the hearing date for the 24th of, Wednesday, the 24th of March?
I'll make that motion, Don.
Mr. Wareham moves that we accept the schedule with the hearing date scheduled for Wednesday, the 24th of March.
I'll support it. It's Krista.
And we have support from Ms. Gardner. So we have a motion on the floor from Mr. Wareham, supported by Ms. Gardner, that we set the proposed meeting as follows: Tuesday, the 16th at 5 p.m. at the township office, Thursday, the 18th at 5 p.m. at the township office, Monday, the 22nd at 5 p.m. at the township office, and Wednesday, we'll need a time. Do we want to stay with 5 p.m. for the hearing?
Sure.
Is that acceptable, everything? We will have 5 p.m. as the start time for all 4 meetings. And if we need to move something around, we would still have the 29th available. So the motion is to accept the schedule, meet at 5 p.m. on the 16th, 18th, 22nd, and 24th. Is
Yeah,
that correct, Mr. Gardner?
I'm sorry. Can we state, this is
Other
Krista.
questions, comments, concerns about the schedule?
This is Krista. I just have a question. Can we state in there when we put it March 22nd as needed?
We can state as needed, absolutely, if needed.
If needed.
Okay, if applicable or if needed. We'll note that. So it reads 16th, 18th, Monday the 22nd, if needed, Wednesday the 24th for the public hearing. All times are 5 PM Eastern. Here at the township office.
Yep.
And they will be available for the public.
Yep.
Ready for the motion? Ready for the vote? All in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We have a budget meeting scheduled. Thank you, everyone. Next item under old business is an update on the MDOT rail right-of-way, the proposed license and status of. I'm delighted to report that after several efforts, I finally did have a conversation with Ms. Dawn Van Hulst from MDOT Real Estate about the license agreement for the sewer line in Mason. I raised several questions about the sewer line with her during our rather lengthy conversation, and they included a number of items that I think are relevant for the board, and I will share them with you. The first item that I raised was on the terms of the agreement being just 5 years. Item number 4 on the proposed corridor license agreement. And we had hoped, given that there was, according to Mr. Koskanemi, the potential for money to be available to extend payments for the lease if they would double, quadruple, double, triple, or even quadruple the time period. So I started with asking for 20 years, 15, or even 10. Unfortunately, the message I received back from her a day or so after we spoke was that the individuals that she spoke with said that they are not extending agreements beyond 5 years at this time. The next issue I raised with her was the issue around insurance and the need for $2 million in what amounts to general liability, if I may phrase it that way, for us to cover for their railroad, abandoned railroad line. And the response that I got from her in the message was that this is standard in all of their agreements, which would place the burden on us and the rate holders. The next item I raised was relative to, was item 14, relative to damage and the fact that we would be responsible for the cost of restoration of the premises throughout the term of the lease. That they would assume, in essence, not even for an act of God, any liability relative to repairing the railroad grade, should there be some damage done to it that might expose our line or even worse. And the response that I got back was, in essence, that we're responsible for all of the maintenance, if you will, and should there be damage, it falls under the lease agreement as our responsibility. The last one I raised was probably the most perplexing one, and that is termination. Item 15, and that resulted in a lengthy conversation because the lease is only 5 years, yet our obligation relative to rural development and the sewer line is appreciably longer, running upwards of, I believe, 40 years, if my memory serves me correctly. And that would mean we would be in a renewal status every 5 years, 8 renewals for the length of time to pay this off, and worse, under termination, should they terminate, we would have issues relative to the retention of the line inside their railroad grade. I was led to believe by the message and during the conversation that if it's terminated, we have to remove our line from their railroad bed. So that was a topic of some discussion with Mr. Koskanemi, and we will be getting together to discuss it further next week. I must say that I had hoped for a far more favorable response from her relative to this point, But unfortunately, though she was empathetic during our conversation, and it came across in the message she left me, the people that were in consultation with her were of a different mindset, and it appears that it rests wholly and solely with us, and that no one is budging off the 5-year period right now. We have not executed the lease to this date. And I might suggest at this moment that you allow myself and others a little more time to meet on this and to talk with people to see if there isn't something we can do to get more advantageous terms in the licensing agreement proposed by MDOT Real Estate. Suggestion during a conversation was perhaps reviewing their application process and information very carefully, because it does imply, for example, that there are no costs associated with units of government that obtain rights of way such as this. It's subject to interpretation based on Mr. Koskanemi's remarks to me, and that's something that he and I will explore. It is perplexing. I also raised with her, since we're talking about leases, the water line lease that no one can seem to locate that dates back to 2002. And she and I had a rather lengthy and interesting conversation about that, to include my comments that shared that we have obtained or discussed internally and obtained from the former township supervisor, who had recollections of the lease not being executed by either or both parties because no invoices arrived. There's all kinds of supporting documentation, paperwork, that something transpired, but the reality is no one can find an executed agreement obligating us to pay anything. That's perhaps why for a decade and a half plus, no payments were made by Osceola Township to MDOT Real Estate, MDOT Rail. So that remains an open question. She did indicate that this might have to go all the way to the AG or Attorney General's office for clarification on this, because no one has been able to locate a document that binds anybody to the terms of the agreement and or the payment schedule approved in previous, identified in previous correspondence as approved at the township level dating back to 2004. So we're waiting on that one. So not any success in getting the licensing agreement for the sewer line altered at this moment, and the water line remains an open question, and I'm not recommending we pay anything on the invoice until there's clarity as to its relevance in the current climate. She did offer a suggestion, speculating out loud, that maybe we should just pick up the lease at this moment and forego, but she did indicate further that that was not something that was an item she could endorse or approve on her own authority. So, but I haven't heard back on that. So fascinating conversations and messages, and I'm very grateful for the input from UP Engineering on this. And as I indicated earlier, I'll be talking with Mr. Koskanemi and certainly the board on this as we go through our budget process and figure out where we go from here. So thanks for allowing me that few moments there. It is a rather complicated situation. I think we need to proceed very, very carefully. Any questions of me? Hearing none, new business, Board of Review vacancy. Mr. Caspery resigned prior to the board convening on March 2nd. His resignation actually arrived several days before that. I did have a couple of conversations with him. I did contact MTA, not MDOT, but MTA, for clarification on the openness of Board of Review meetings and the latitude that appeared to be coming out of Lansing relative to meeting face to face. Mr. Caspery was appreciative, and we engaged in some very nice conversations, but he said that his resignation is firm. I do have posters drawn up. We will solicit response from residents of the township, and we will seek clarity on the point raised earlier as to whether or not Board of Review members have to be residents, or if there are restrictions on who can participate with Board of Review. I think there are, but I don't want to misspeak myself at this moment. I will look into it. So we'll post a vacancy with a due date of the 24th of March. That would permit the board to take action on it at its meeting after the hearing on the budget, if it so desires. Regards to the amendments, we did talk about this at the water board meeting. Just to restate, our first budget meeting, that's scheduled for the 16th, will include at the outset an analysis of current year expenditures and current budgets, the tweaking thereof, and ultimately the approval of an amendment. And then that amendment for each of the budgets that it applies to will be the template for going forward with the budgets for next year. That I trust meets with the board's approval as to process, given the feedback at the water board meeting. Item C under new business is Mr. Odger's resignation as our maintenance person. And we also have a posting that will go up on the website and be distributed to key points throughout the township. Again, calling for interested parties to respond by the 24th of March. I do believe that is attached in your package.
March 31st was his last.
Yeah, he did imply during a conversation that he would be available after that time, possibly to assist with training, orientation, familiarization of whomever we hire. And I really appreciate Dale's willingness to assist us in that fashion. I told both Mr. Caspery and Mr. Odgers that their services have been very much appreciated, that they will be missed. I will have letters available prior to our meeting on the 24th, perhaps as early as next week, for the board to review, thanking them for their time and service. We'll send out something a little more formally to recognize them on behalf of their service to the township. The last item under new business is township property. Ms. Gardner, the floor is yours relative to this addition to the agenda.
I received an email asking if the township would be interested in selling our land that's across from Sandy Bottom. I looked it up just quickly. We have 2 parcels over there, and I'm assuming based on the picture he gave me that he's talking about the sand pit. But one parcel is 11.65 acres and the other is 2.65 acres, and they're adjoining for a total of 14.3 acres. And I didn't want to speak out of turn, so I figured I got it in a timely enough manner that I could bring it up tonight and see if that's even a consideration on our part.
Comments from the board? Questions of Ms. Gardner?
Well, my only thing that I want, this is Aaron Jenke, and I guess my only part for that is, obviously we've been asked this in the past, for people to purchase the option to either utilize the property for access or buy the property, and we have denied it in the past. We have stuff in our recreation plan that includes that property for future use. And some of those ideas are good. There's also some items now, like with the township, we no longer can use the Julio property for stuff that some of the fire department does. So now the fire department is considering using that piece of property for some of the things that we used to use the Julio property for. So I would put my 2 cents in as saying that would be a hindrance to the township if we were to reduce our holdings in that area, unless we had some other way of replacing it, which I can't see getting a piece of property right next to our park as is a possibility. I probably could go on, but I'll go with that right now. We could talk about it more if we want.
Ms. Gardner, is there a time frame that was identified by the potential purchaser as to when they would want to respond?
Nope. It was literally one sentence wanting to know if we would be interested in selling. That's all they asked.
Thank you.
It's just, this is Don, it's too quick. I didn't know anything about it till just now, so I'd hate to make a decision right now, but I'm kind of like Aaron, that's an asset that we have that we just don't want to dump for something. I don't think, I think we tell them right now, not at this time, I think would be my response.
I agree with Don, but that's, I'm pretty sure I made that clear.
Do we want to seek more information, or do we want to put Mr. Wareham's comments into a motion to indicate to the potential purchaser that at this time the township is not interested in selling, but we would notify him at some future date should we be interested in parting with the property?
I don't know if you want to, Andy, I don't know if I want to add that in part.
No, I don't think I want to add that in either. I don't want to be beholden to anybody, and if we were to sell it, we would probably need to do it in a fair manner that would require some type of open deal that is not, not something that you do with some guy that comes along and says he's going to offer some money for something. I just, there's nothing about that I think is above board.
I'll make mine a motion that I'll move that we let that interested party know that the township is not interested at this time in selling that property, and just leave it as simple as that.
We have a motion from Mr. Wareham that we contact the potential purchaser and let him know that we are the interested party, not the potential purchaser, the interested party, that we are not interested in selling property identified at this time. Is that the gist of your motion, Mr. Wareham?
That is the motion.
Is there support for Mr. Wareham's motion?
Support.
Mr. Janke. Further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to let the party know that we are not interested in selling the property at this time, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Is there any other business to come before the township board from anybody's perspective?
Mark, this is Jim Sierra. I just want to let you know, I met with Bob on February 26th, and we ran water into the Mason sewer system. And then we ran the one pump, and then it timed out. I ran down to Quality Hardware, came back and waited, and the other pump fired up. So the system is working good.
Thank you, Mr. Sierra. Any questions of Mr. Sierra relative to the testing of the system in Mason? Thank you to both of you for doing that periodically on the township's behalf. With no other business to come before the board, we will open up the meeting one more time for public comment. People interested in commenting will get 3 minutes to offer their comments to the board at this time. Please identify yourself and the floor will be yours. Sir.
Okay, my name's Rob, Rob Grove. I'm asking on behalf of Roy Dahl, if it's possible we could have the Wi-Fi signal password for Roy to be able to use his iPad for email. That's the request.
Are there unique circumstances, sir?
Well, he doesn't have a computer system of his own. He's at home 94% It would just be nice if Roy could get emails from his daughter, granddaughter, great-granddaughter. That would be the extent of it.
Does he live close here?
Right next door. You could throw a stone and hit his house. But he can't get the one from Bethany. It's not close enough, but I believe this one maybe if we had access to it. That's the request. Comment.
Any questions of Mr. Roll? We are meeting next week. If the board would like to think about this and look into its
Yeah,
feasibility.
it isn't something you need
It
to
isn't
take.
pressing at this
No,
moment, so we
no.
could, discuss it at one of our meetings next week, and if the board approves the request, we could get the word out to him,
Okay,
quickly.
good.
Is that acceptable to you?
Yes, definitely.
We will then, take it up as an agenda item when we convene around the budgets.
Very good.
Thank
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
What was the gentleman's name again?
Roy Dahl, D-A-H-L. Your neighbor, right? In the yellow house.
Yeah, I know his daughter, so.
Sue.
Sue, yeah.
Yeah, and that's, you know, if he could somehow connect with, or, Katie, his granddaughter.
Yeah.
You know, and he would, at his point in time, you know, it'd be nice.
But you did indicate he's 94 years old?
Yes.
Thank you.
But no internet connection at all. But they gave him a thing to play games. I thought if we could get an email signal, and I could teach him how to,
Write a letter, yeah.
yeah, then they could have a little more interaction with. So,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We should have an answer for you next week.
Very good, appreciate it.
Thank you. There's still an opportunity for others to offer public comment before I call for a motion to adjourn. Would anybody else like to address the board at this time?
I would like to make a comment, Mark. This is Kristen.
Please, the floor is yours for 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. I'll try to speak quickly. First, I'd like to thank Cindy Barth for speaking up on behalf of uninterrupted public comment. It was jarring to be interrupted, and I do request to be able to make my comment without interruption. So thank you, Cindy. I'd also like to thank Mark for his time today. We did speak twice. We spoke this morning about some concerns that I had, and then you called me this afternoon to let me know that the meeting materials were posted, and I wanted to thank you for that. I would like to note that, as I mentioned in the water board meeting, the importance of the timely posting of the notifications. And I would like to ask that they be entered into the public record, that there have been 3 meetings this week, if you count the Board of Review, the water board meeting, and this meeting. So 2 if you consider this one meeting, and 3 if you consider them separate, that were not posted accurately to meet the requirements. And I'd like it noted, you're welcome to say that you have addressed the issue as soon as you came to your attention. But I have had some challenges with obtaining information regarding to the meetings in a timely fashion. So I'm requesting that to be added. And to say that when the more information that's provided, it's a help to the community. It helps me, it helps the people that I'm sharing information with. It really helps like the community. I just can't say that enough. So I am encouraging that to happen. I've had some issues with receiving emails back, posting notifications, receiving emails of notifications, etc. And as we turned the page from 2020, I started noticing that in January and February. And so as we're coming into March, I did send everyone on the board an email showing that I'm starting to chart what's happening in each meeting so that we can record that. And my hope is that we clear this up and that the public has access to the information. I was inspired to add the category of the meeting interruptions because we did have that at this meeting. So my hope is that we don't have those occur. I'm just glancing through my notes here. It looks like I spoke quickly enough. And I think that's it. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Does anyone else wish to address the board at this time?
This is Cindy Barth. I would like to say I appreciate Mark not allowing public comments to be interrupted. Whether or not whatever people have to say, they should not be interrupted. Thank you, Mark.
Would anyone else like to comment before I call for the meeting to be adjourned? Hearing none, thank you everyone for participating tonight. We have received your feedback, those of you that have offered comment. It is now 7:34. I would ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll make that motion, Don.
Mr. Ware moves that we adjourn. Is there support for the motion?
Support, Aaron.
We have support. All in favor of the motion to adjourn, please indicate by saying aye.
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 We stand adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Thank you.
You're welcome.